to a marquee like this in the garden in the hotel in India, where the conference was held in Madras, now Chennai, I think. At any rate, by kindly befriending this old gentleman, I found out that he was head of the Crimea Medical Institute of the Soviet Union. And on the way back in, Marilyn came running up with Swami Vishnu, and he said to Marilyn, "Da, I want to invite you to Soviet Union to teach psychiatrists." He had heard a lecture in the morning. So our relationship was fertile. In addition to that, Swami Vishnu was meeting in Czechoslovakia with great men in science and academia, who we brought to Val Morin and established a laboratory for them to do research in these things. All of this was part of the background, but the human side of it was even more interesting. I watched and come and go many yogis here in this campus, just as we are now, but with no marquee, no tent, at night. Marilyn was asked to do a demonstration with messages for people. And it was dark out, and there were lights all over, of course. And as she opened her mouth, all the lights went out in the directions. One mountain after the next became dark. Something by synchronicity had happened at the same time with the power system. These are the kinds of things that we remember when we look back at an extraordinary relationship. But I never forget the human side of Swami Vishnudevananda. He told me once in the 1980s that the world was going to become challenged by the end of the century and into the new one, because we can't carry on this way, he said, for very long without paying the price. And we've witnessed in the last decade, and especially the last year, the reaping of this karma of the West, which he spoke about then. I have had many experiences, which I won't share with you because it would take too much time. But one of the most gratifying experiences that I've ever had was to learn from Swami Vishnu what he knew about the Ashuras and the Devas. We were driving back in his Mercedes, the one that's in the museum down by the Samadhi Estates, the red Mercedes that he had, or orange one, where he was lecturing in the States. And he told me that the Ashuras were the fallen watchers in ancient Israel. In the books of Enoch, we discovered in the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 70s, there were two powers in heaven. One was fallen. The fallen angels were called the Ashuras in India, he said. And the angels who were still serving the God of heaven were the power of the light, angelic forces. And these were battling it out throughout history in the minds and hearts of men and women who could choose for light or darkness. I was reminded of the phrase in the story of God speaking to Abraham, "Behold, I place before you the way of light and the way of death. Choose ye life." The way of life and the way of darkness. Choose ye life. And that, of course, is the choice that yoga gives. Do you know that there were professors and mainly clergy, Anglican, not so much Anglican, but Protestant clergy and some Catholic clergy, in the 1970s when yoga became popular in America, who were calling it a cult, but we're making different condemnations of it as contrary to religion. The word in yoga, Sanskrit, yog, for yoga, means literally to bind together the body, mind, and spirit with the source of reality. To bind together. It's interesting to note that some Latin dictionaries, ancient ones, have the same definition of the word religare, which is the verb to bind together body, mind, and spirit with the source of reality. That's the word from which religion comes. So yoga means pristine religion. The words semantically mean the same thing. So it's very difficult for me to listen to people in religious groups saying that yoga is not compatible with religion in its true sense, and it is supposed to be true religion. You know that you have something in the New Testament, for example, which I as a Christian would be familiar with. When the sayings of Jesus are recited, we learn that Jesus says to his disciples, I and the Father are one, and if you are in me, and I am in you, then you are in the Father, and together we are one with God. Now, that reminded me very much of Aham Brahmanasi, Atman and Brahman are one. Atman is the son or daughter of the father or mother, who is Brahman, the source of all life. And if Atman and Brahman are one, then God is in you and me, and we are in God when we are in light. So there is a real reason why ancient India had a truth which emerged again in the new life of Jesus. But in the lives of great sages of all traditions, who see light, divine light, as illuminating the way to true and authentic living, and casting out the fruits of darkness. Isaiah the prophet said, the real life that God gives to man is, quote, to heal the sick, give sight to the blind, raise up the infirm, and declare that this is the time when that is taking place. That is the phrase from the prophet Isaiah that Jesus found in the book of Isaiah when he opened it in the temple at Capernaum, at the synagogue at Capernaum, which has been reconstructed and still stands. That was the phrase from the Hebrew Bible of Isaiah that Jesus read to inaugurate his ministry, to heal the sick, give sight to the blind, raise up the infirm, and to know that God is one with you and all. Yoga is profoundly religion. Don't anybody ever tell you anything that you don't challenge. In other words, challenge anyone who tells you that it is not religion or false. It is the core of true religion. Body, mind, and spirit, the 8 limbs of yoga, the Ashtanga, describe the process of transformation of the human being from darkness to light, from the absence of this reality to its presence. Swami Vishnu was very keenly aware of all of this, and aware of also the fact that the world was losing its grip on reality because it had lost its light. This is not a cultic thing. This is not a religion versus other religions. It's a matter of a battle of light versus darkness for everybody on earth, and everybody who's ever been on earth, who has sided with the light over darkness. To heal the sick, give sight to the blind. That means not just physically blind, spiritually and ethically blind. And we're living in a world which has had battles of light and darkness throughout history. And we're watching one unfold before us on television and in the great news of the world today. The malfeasance of leaders in various traditions, including economic and political, in different countries, have brought us to a sad past. And the work of yoga and the work of true religion is to align us with the light. And becoming one with the light, in any tradition, is becoming light. It's no longer time for sectarian battles between one cult and one religion and another. It's no longer time for you to doubt that if you have found peace and light and truth, there is only one peace and light and truth. And it is not betraying your tradition to find it in another tradition. It is fulfilling your tradition to find it in another tradition. If you find God through yoga, and can, like many young men and women did in the 1970s and 80s, write that before, when they were Jewish or Christian young people, they didn't understand certain things. But now that they've taken yoga, they understood their own religion, Judaism and Christianity, much better in its depth. Swami Vishnu is very much aware of all of these things, We had many corresponding conversations over the years. I'll never forget one we had before he died in the Samadhi Estates down here while he was lying on his couch. He said, "The world is going to get much worse," he said, "John, by the end of the century. And when it does, know that the light is ready to dawn." We all have a way to go to catch up with where he was at. He sped so fast that he never stopped for a breath, or never let anything get in the way of something that was impossible. Remember those peace missions that he flew all over the world. The one in specific that he held in Berlin, flying backwards over the wall into East Germany, with Marilyn helping him by giving him impressions of what would happen, which did happen. "Follow the light," she said, "and when the sun comes through the clouds, you will see a field down below. You can land there." And he did. The farmer was terrified at seeing this little man, brown, in an orange loincloth, land in a mosquito in his muddy field. He didn't want to call the authorities when Swami Vishnu asked him to call the police, because he wanted to make a statement, as he had in other places. He finally persuaded him. A half an hour later, the SYVC came, the East German police, and took him to the police station, after fussing with him to come to them first, because he didn't want to get their shiny boots dirty in the mud. But he finally got them to come out and look at the plane, which got them out into the field in the end. They put him on a table and let him illustrate yoga for them. And they were so impressed that they wanted to give him a ham sandwich. And he said, "No, I'll take a cheese sandwich. I'm a vegetarian." So they gave him a cheese sandwich. He looked at his watch. And he said, "Oh my." He said, "I've got to get back to West Berlin because we're having a peace march through the whole city." They said, "What? You're having a peace march in West Berlin?" "Yes, you've got to get through there. Here is a subway token. We'll drive you to the East German terminal where you can pick it up. And you get out and just go right through the gate." He did. He went in the back gate instead of the front gate, where the police, thinking he was going to leave from the American zone. He only went from the British zone by divine providence, because when they tried to assemble a plane early in the morning the day before in the American zone, in a small airport, they couldn't get it up in time before the light came, so they had to go put it away and go back the next night in the truck. And they went back to a British zone, smaller airport, and flew from there. They asked the American general, the German police, "What should we do with him when we catch him? It's illegal to fly over the wall into East Berlin." The answer was, from the American general, "Arrest the bastard, put him in jail." But he hadn't flown from the American zone, so they had to call the British general. He said, "Oh, one of those sadhus, you know, like Gandhi. They're just trouble. Leave him alone, let him go." Yeah, they learned. So they let him go, the East German police, and he went right into the toilet inside the place where there was going to be, there had been a preparation for a firewalk which had taken place. And when he got inside, in the toilet, there was a reporter who'd strayed somehow to the back gate. All of them were waiting for him at the front gate, along with the police, to arrest him.